Welcome everyone to my channel called Harbi Kafir, brought to you by the Dar el Harb Center for Islamic Studies, and me, your host, Harbi Kafir. So however you found this channel, it is my most fervent hope you'll return to learn more about the ideology that attempts to pass itself off as the religion of peace, Islam, and how it affects us folks known in Islam as Kafirs. This episode will focus on the vocabulary needed by us Kafirs for understanding Islam. I have a list here of 36 or so terms you will hear me use in these video lessons for the Dar el Harb Center for Islamic Studies. So, get out your paper and pencil and we will start with number 1, Islam. As you know, if you've been watching the previous video lessons here on the Dar el Harb Center for Islamic Studies, is a total life-encompassing ideology based on the revelations of a God named Allah, as revealed to his final prophet, Mohammed, bless his little heart. 2, Allah, the deity particular to Islam, as opposed to, say, Yahweh or Vishnu. Mohammed, Arabic, that's supposed to mean the blessed one. And according to Allah, he's the final prophet and the most perfect example for human behavior, who lived from about 570 to 632 in Arabia. Sharia is the path or way to perfect Islamic life, as we have discussed in previous video lessons. Also previously discussed, we have Kafir, the concealer, as it means in Arabic, one who denies the Islamic way, even though having the knowledge of Islam. Harbi, or Harb, is our next word, a person or way of living that is in conflict with Islam. Harbi is the opposite of Dhimmi, which we'll get to in a second. Dar el Harb, of course, is the world Dar of conflict. Next, Dar Islam, or Dar el Islam, the world Dar of Islam. Dhimmi, a non-Muslim that lives in Dar Islam, who willingly submits to Sharia and pays the Jizya tax. You know, I'd die in battle before I'd ever become a Dhimmi. I wouldn't wish Dhimmihood on my worst enemy. Jizya. sorry. That's, get serious. That's a tax on Dhimmis just to be able to be alive in Dar Islam. Haram is an Arabic term meaning forbidden. And we hit our 12th word, Halal, an Arabic term meaning permissible. So you have haram and halal, they're opposite terms. Hajj is a pilgrimage to Mecca that the faithful make sometime in their lifetime so they can circumnavigate the Kaaba or walk around it 7 times and perform other pagan rituals. Next up is Hegira, is one spelling, also Hijra. I prefer Hijra, which is the colonization of Dar el Harb, based on the migration of the original Muslim clan to Medina after being kicked out of Mecca in 622. And 622, by the way, is when the Islamic calendar starts. Up to Mecca here for our next one. That's Mohammed's birthplace and the site of the Kaaba, which is supposed to have been there forever, and where a watered-down version of Islam was revealed to Muhammad. Bless his little heart. Medina is the city of the Prophet. It's about 300 miles away from Mecca, and it's the second most important Islamic city. It's where Allah revealed a whole bunch more of the Koran, including a lot about Jihad. Shahada, that is the proclamation there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger, said in Arabic, because you got to speak Arabic in order for Allah to hear you. Next up is Taqiyya. We're about halfway there. Taqiyya is lying approved by Islam to further the cause of Islam, and you'll find that one, being able to do that in Surah 3:28. This one I want you to get right because they get it wrong on TV. Allahu Akbar means not God is great. That's what the TV people want you to think. Actually, it means our God is greater than your God. Allah is greater. That's what it actually means. Next up, we have a Muslim who is a follower of Islam. They're not bad people. I do not hate Muslims. I never want you to get the wrong idea about that. Just like you can have somebody that's a Christian that's not really a good person. It's just the person is who matters. And you can't help it if that person that's a Muslim just happens to follow part of a misguided ideology. If they're still nice, they probably don't follow the whole thing as of yet. Ummah, that is the community of all Muslims. Jihad, that is struggle, and I struggle with that definition. But according to Dr. Bill Warner, Jihad is war against Kafirs to establish Sharia, and comes in 4 different forms. That would be Jihad of the sword, which most people are familiar with but happens the least. Jihad by speech, Jihad in writing, and also the financial support of Jihad. Okay, this next one is something that you learn during Islamic Studies, and that is the 5 pillars of Islam. So learn them with me so you can surprise and amaze your Muslim friends. And I use the simple idea of 4 P's and an F, PP, PPF, to remember the 5 pillars of Islam. Number 1 is proclamation, as I was just saying, the Shahada. Allah, or there is no God but Allah, and what's his face is the final messenger. That's the Shahada, and that's number 1, P, proclamation. Number 2 is prayer, which in Arabic is salat or salah, and you have to do that 5 times a day. Third one is, so I make the P's fit, is poor donations. Donations to the poor, and that's called zakat, which is a good idea in any ideology. Number 4, the 4th P is pilgrimage to Mecca. As we were just talking about the Hajj. Everybody does it once in their lifetime unless they're infirmed or otherwise can't make it. And then the last one is the F, which is fasting. And they fast during the daylight hours during the prescribed month of Ramadan, but not at night. They just fast during the day. At night they they eat a lot. Not a lot. They fast. Yeah, that's it. They fast at night. They feast. they feast at night and fast during the day. So it's, you know, they call it fasting, but they only do it during the day, light hours, during the month of Ramadan. Oh, we're at 24 or so here, which up next is Shirk, which is the association of anything with Allah, like paganism or something else. That's why there's no Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost in Islam, or why talk of Allah's daughters is pretty much forbidden, like the one named Lot. This is revealed in one of the shortest surah of the Koran, Surah 112, and is titled Sincerity, and it goes in its entirety like this. Let me get to the back here where the short ones are, and see it has a little let's see, it has an introductory page that gives you a little information about this surah or chapter, and this one goes as they all start off, in the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful. They all start out that way. Say, He is Allah, the One. Allah is eternal. He has not fathered anyone, nor was He fathered, and no one is comparable to Him. There you go. And that was from, of course, the Quran, which is the written form of the revelations from Allah to Muhammad. The Surah is the next word, and of course, hopefully you figured out by now that that is a chapter in the Quran. Some of them are very short, some of them are quite long, and that's the way that the Quran is organized, from the longest surah to the shortest surah is the last one, not chronologically, which confuses a lot of folks. Next word is not an Arabic word, it's abrogate, which I was unfamiliar with until I started doing a lot of study of Islam. But basically it just means to supersede or repeal or do away with something in favor of something else. Like the 21st Amendment abrogated the 18th Prohibition Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. So in this case, the later surah of Medina that were written in Medina can abrogate the earlier Meccan ones. Next word is Sira. We've used that one before. That is the biography of Muhammad that was written well over a century and a half after the fact. And like I said, I probably need to do a video on Muhammad so you can understand more about his life, which we're also told about in what's called, next word, Hadith. And Hadith is plural and singular, and they are the traditional stories of what Muhammad said or did, written down generations later after his death. Sunnah, next word, is the perfect example of Muhammad's life based on the Sira and the Hadith. Next isn't a word, but a phrase you need to become familiar with, and that phrase is, those whom your right hand possesses. Those whom your right hand possesses are slaves. And remember, Muhammad owned slaves, so it's Sunnah. Getting close to the end, next up is mosque or masjid, a meeting place for followers of Islam where prayers are conducted by an Imam, 5 times a day, on land considered conquered and belonging to Islam. Imam is a person, a man, learned in Islam who leads prayers in a mosque and guides followers on the path to Islam. Apostate is another word that's not Arabic, but it's one I've found more and more use for in this study. And it's a person who renounces an ideology, or in this case, a religion. And if you renounce Islam, Islam's prescription for apostasy is death by beheading. Once you become Islamic, you're supposed to stay that way for life. And for our last term, we'll get 3 in for 1. This is Islamophobe, Islamophobic, and Islamophobia. These are made-up words used in an attempt to make Kafirs that know the truth about Islam sound like a bunch of irrationally scared bad guys. Don't let them use the word against you. Well, that should be enough for this video lesson. I know I went a little long, probably a lot long this episode, but thank you to everyone for watching and indulging me as I try to help my fellow Kafirs to understand Islam. Because you need to know Islam so you can say no to submission.